Ave grew out of an intensive 4-week ideation phase. And from the moment the idea of Park Ave became apparent with the team, their passion was so clear. From that, the developers have coded over 600,000 lines of code, 30,000 of which are their very own unique coding lines. And our business interns have conducted over 150 interviews with buyers and sellers of parking, including speaking to legal officials across the nation and even the mayor of Norman to hear her input on our idea. Now, the Park Ave team is extremely excited to be sharing with you this idea today that started out as a project but is actually going to continue moving forward as an actual company. The 13 team members, and that's correct, 13, we are the largest team CCEW has had to date, are super passionate and excited about what they're doing. And on top of this, they are extremely humorous and keep the meetings going long past the designated end times so that they can share their exciting ideas about the project and the soon-to-be company, as well as continue with supporting each other in all of their achievements. In addition, the Park Ave team loves the use of acronyms. And at this point, I would like to introduce all of them and welcome them out as they share with you how Park Ave will provide BPF, Better Parking Faster.
Have you ever tried to find parking at a special event, but you can't find a spot and you know you're going to be late? If so, you're not alone. More than 70 million cars in the United States each year can't find parking spots at special events without wasting both time and money. This wasted time and money is detracting from the overall experience of the event, and it's frustrating the buyers of private parking. Our solution, Park Ave, is a web and iPhone application that will allow sellers of private parking to list their parking, and then buyers can find them in an open marketplace, reserve and pay for them before the event, and then receive turn-by-turn directions from where they are to that spot on the day of the event, helping our consumers to find better parking faster. Hi, my name is Nathan Robertson, and I'm a public relations junior from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I'm Jeffrey Terry, a math and computer science freshman from Norman, Oklahoma.
I'm Shelby Van Hooser, a computer engineering sophomore from Enid, Oklahoma.
I'm William Lawn, a mathematics and letters senior from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Hi, I'm Megan Saunders, a public affairs and administration junior from Waldeck, New Jersey.
And I'm Luke Tucker, an energy management and finance senior from Okima, Oklahoma.
And together we represent the Spring 2014 SOBA team. In addition to Jeff and Shelby, there were 4 other developers working on this project: Edgar Panjay, Jeremy Littell, Matt Stengel, and Nick Spark, who were all under the direction of Ali Haja Mirza. The business team was under the direction of Sarah Young. Additionally, on our team, we have a graphic designer that's been working with us, Jillian Taylor, and our mentor for the project is Phil Dow, who serves as a developer in residence for CCEW. Phil, we're happy to have you with us tonight. We're excited to talk to you about this project because this is a student-created company. We're entering a $222 million market, and we have the potential to be profitable within the first year. And our company deals with the issue of finding private parking at special events. Now, as I mentioned, buyers are frustrated by the current state of finding parking in the market, and our surveys have shown us there are 2 reasons for this: the wasted time and the wasted money. Now, we talked to over 100 people on the buyer side, and we found that these buyers are spending 30 minutes. 75% of them are spending 30 minutes or more looking for parking at special events. From the same population, we found that 78% of them feel like they're overspending because when you've already spent 30 minutes or more looking for parking, you want to settle for whatever you can find, which may not be the best value for your money. But this problem is not exclusive to the buyer side. Smaller sellers, homes that are not on the main streets, local businesses that are new to the selling parking game, they have difficulty selling out their parking because they have low visibility. Additionally, they only have one day to sell that parking, 5 or 6 hours before the event at a maximum. Now, we talked to 32 small homes and businesses in the area of Norman that we felt fit this market. We found that 52% of them already recognize the value add of what we're trying to do, which is exciting that 52% see that before they even have a chance to handle beta technology. our solution, Park App, will allow sellers to list their spots on our applications, and then buyers can find them in the open marketplace on the Google Maps layout that you see behind me. They can then reserve and pay for the spot ahead of time, securing their spot for that game or that event. And then they can receive turn-by-turn directions on the day of the event from where they are to that spot. Now, this solves problems on both sides of the fence, both our buyers and our sellers. For our buyers, they're able to park faster because they know exactly where they're going when they get to the event. Additionally, they'll be able to save money because of the open marketplace. They'll be able to see all the options available to them, and they can make the best choice of what kind of parking they want to pay for with their money. For the sellers, they have enhanced exposure. It no longer matters that they're not on the main street because they're on our application and our buyers are looking for parking spots. Additionally, because they can list spots and sell spots a day, a week before the event, this lengthens that time window they have to sell parking, giving them a better chance to sell out their parking for the event. So to sum, there's a disconnect between the growing demand of buyers of private parking and these smaller hidden sellers that want to meet the demand. Our application, Park App, will connect these buyers to these smaller sellers, helping our customers to find better parking faster. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and Shelby, and they're going to show you just how easy it is to use this application from both the buyer and the seller side.
Thanks, Nathan. The development team spent the first 5 weeks of the semester learning a slew of new technologies. During the next 2 months, we developed an iPhone app, a website, and even a custom API for Park Ave. Because of this 2-month time frame, we decided to prioritize and focus our initial efforts on building the website for sellers of parking and the iPhone app for buyers of parking. During the summer, we will be working to expand both platforms so that both buyers and sellers can use either. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at how sellers are going to use our website. Upon entering our website, they will be given the option to sign up or log in. After logging in, they will see a Google Street View image for each of the lots that they manage. This is actually pulled down from Google dynamically based on their address. They'll also be able to add spots. Adding spots is simple. They simply tell us how many spots they need to add, their price, and the dates they will be available. It's that easy. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Shelby, and he's going to show you how buyers are actually going to use our iPhone app to buy the spots that we just created.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Now let's see what it looks like for a seller to get online and to host their spots for their particular address. Now we're going to look at now what the buyer application will look like on the iPhone. As Jeff opens it up, you'll see immediately that our data is available instantaneously because we have optimized all of our 16,000 lines of code for speed and to elongate the battery life for the user. On this first screen, you can see up on top a map showing our current location, and below that an overall list of all the lots that are available around us. We can tap on one of these lots to look and see what's inside. On top, we see the same Google Street View image of what that lot looks like if we were going to be on location there, as well as all the spots that are available inside of it. We can tap in the top right-hand corner, though, and go through the reviews to make sure that this lot looks like a good one for us. They love it. Awesome. Now if we go back, we can tap on these spots that are available here at this location, and we can go ahead and try to book it. Here we see a summary of all the information, again, just making sure that we're very clear. This looks great. What just happened was that we made a call back to our server to negotiate with PayPal to make sure that this transaction is authenticated and make sure the user actually does have all the appropriate funds. Then this generates a receipt and gives it back to us, where we display it here to the user, where they can keep it for their own records if they want to. Now with one tap to the button on the bottom, we can open up into the iOS Maps application, where with one tap to the top right-hand corner on that start button, we can begin navigating to this parking that we just purchased. It's as easy as that. Siri's excited too. I like it. Okay, now we see what it looks like for both a seller to get online and host their parking on our web application and a buyer to use our iPhone app to find their better parking faster. It really is a simple system. Now I'm going to turn over to William, who's going to show us how we're going to find the best avenues into our target markets.
Thanks, Shelby. To complement that really exciting technology, we have found a equally promising market of $222 million in potential parking transactions that Park Ave will target. Our target seller is one that is small, doesn't consistently sell all of their spots, but is still close enough to the venue to be within walking distance. Through our surveys and interviews in Norman, we found that these park sellers are located in a donut-like region around the stadium. Because the sellers in the center usually sell out all their spots. However, this outer ring of sellers that we will target needs another resource to do the same. Through our knowledge of special events nationwide, and assuming that houses can sell one spot and businesses can sell between 10 and 20, depending on the urbanization of the area of the event, we determined that in these donuts, there are 11.1 parking transactions annually outside of venue parking, meaning that in 28 markets in our first 4 years, we plan to target 1.2 million of these potential transactions, and based on our surveys and predictions, we project to capture 30% of that specialized market, or 380,000 transactions annually. In order to enter into these markets, we will use a campus intern program to drive low-cost, rapid expansion. These campus interns have become an industry standard for tech startups because of the benefits that they employ. By accessing the expertise of these localized agents, we can reduce travel costs but still entering into these markets through the use of experts. And given the low cost of travel and the fact that we can have multiple teams entering into several markets simultaneously, this model is extremely repeatable, meaning that our expansion can go at much faster rates than we could by ourselves. So in our first year, we will enter into Norman and Oklahoma City, where we will test out this intern program. But then once we fully implement this model, we'll be able to enter into 6 markets the second year, and then 9 and 11 markets in years 3 and 4 respectively. But in order to monetize each of those transactions, we have determined that a flat rate between $2 and $5 per transaction will best monetize each transaction. By our surveys, we found that 75% of respondents preferred a flat rate fee to a variable percentage fee on each transaction. However, within that willingness to pay, we found that 57% of people were willing to pay $2, but 20% were still willing to pay $5 for a service such as Park Ave to find, reserve, and pay for spots using their iPhone. So to take advantage of this whole spectrum, we have decided on a graduated pricing structure that will have people paying a transaction fee of $2 to $5 depending on when they reserve their spots. So in Norman, where parking in this donut area averages at $10 per spot, a parker will find the prices between $12 and $15 depending on when they reserve, whether that's 3 days out or day of the event. The seller's price remains static across this time period, and PayPal's processing fee, which is 2.9% plus 30 cents, changes only marginally, meaning that our revenues will go between $1.35 to $4.26 per transaction. By targeting this very specific market and monetizing each point on the spectrum of our customers' willingness to pay, we will be able to optimally monetize all of these potential transactions that Park Ave will be looking at. But to see what sets us apart within this competitive landscape of these markets, Megan will tell you about more of the specifics of our application.
Thank you, William. As Nathan mentioned earlier, parking at special events can be an extremely frustrating experience for both buyers and sellers. And as a result, we've seen an increase in the number of parking applications being developed to make that process just a little bit easier. We chose 2 of the most competitive parking applications that also provide the facilitation of private parking sales and compared them to Park Ave, as well as the most commonly used face-to-face method of sales across 4 key metrics. The biggest benefit of using a parking application is the ability for our users to reserve their parking ahead of time. This is a huge benefit for both buyers and sellers and can only be achieved through the use of an application. The biggest benefit of face-to-face sales, however, is that no party incurs any excess fees during the course of the transaction. While Park Ave does plan on taking that $2 to $5 per transaction service fee from the buyers, we're making it completely free for our sellers to list their lots, which is different than our competitor Park & Party, who charges buyers not only to buy spots, but sellers to list their lots as well. And even though a lack of fee is a big incentive for using face-to-face methods, through our interviews with buyers, we were told that the benefit of reserving parking ahead of time far outweighs the minimal transaction cost. Through those interviews, it was also made apparent that a review system was very important to our users. We decided to implement a unique 2-way review system not being used by any other competitor that allows both buyers to rate sellers and sellers to rate buyers, allowing both parties in the transaction to be extremely selective in who they wish to do business with, taking a little bit of the uncertainty of doing business and parking with a stranger a little bit easier. And finally, Park Ave is uniquely situated in comparison to these competitors Now we already have an iPhone application that's not only developed, but ready to be used in any market that we decide to enter. This allows us to provide the ability for our users to not only reserve parking on the fly, but give them turn-by-turn directions from their location to the parking spot that they reserved, allowing us to further enhance the overall event parking process for our users. Aside from these awesome benefits of using Park App, we're very excited to share with you all today the gamification system we plan on implementing. Gamification is the process of applying game elements to a non-game application to make the experience more fun and exciting for users. And applications that successfully gamify have seen an 80% increase in their weekly active user rates. And while that number in itself is exciting for us, what's more exciting is that there are no other applications in the parking application space using a system similar. Gamification for Park Ave in particular will lead to 3 exciting opportunities. We'll be able to increase our buyer retention, target our marketing to specific sellers, and create seller credentials. By using a badge system similar to Foursquare, we'll be able to give our users an instant form of feedback and sense of achievement, and that sense of achievement will drive continued use of our application. And by allowing our buyers to use their location to check in at lots they wish they could have reserved through our application, we can target those campus interns directly to the owners of those lots, increasing seller acquisition. And finally, as buyers begin to review sellers, we can give those sellers badges that will act as credentials. That puts all sellers, regardless of their location, on an even playing field, helping those sellers in the outer ring donut that William talked about before sell their parking. As I mentioned, no other parking application is using any gamification system similar to the one that Park App plans on implementing, and we know it will give us a competitive edge when we enter the parking solution application space by providing our users with an unparalleled user experience. Understanding what sets us apart makes us excited about the potential profitability and future for Park Ave. And to discuss exactly what that looks like, I'm going to turn over to Luke, who's going to tell you about our financial projections as well as the next steps for Park Ave.
Thank you, Megan. Projecting out through the year 2017, with entries into 28 markets, we anticipate revenues of right at $1.6 million. And after accounting for expenses such as development, marketing, as well as server costs and some salaries later on, we end up with just right at $950,000 in profits. In arriving at these numbers, we use 3 primary assumptions. First, we assume that we'll hire a contract developer in year 2 as we hit 50,000 transactions that year. Up to that point, we will have bootstrapped all of our development. Second, we accounted for our markets maturing. As William described, we have a graduated pricing structure which increases the price as the people get closer to the day of the event. We believe as people become more familiar with our application, they'll book further in advance to take advantage of those lower prices, driving down our per transaction revenue. However, that will be more than offset by our increasing adoption rates. Finally, we scaled adoption rates linearly across 4 years. And while we're confident that adoption rates will be higher than this, we decided to stay on the conservative side. We know that Park Ave can be profitable in year 1 and has relatively low startup costs. And while we're not in a position to monetize it today, we have a plan to get there. Going into May, our team will enter the Sooner Launchpad Business Accelerator, where we'll receive $10,000 in seed funding, access to CCEW offices, as well as mentorship from local entrepreneurs. In that time, we will be working on beta testing both our application and business model in two event-specific parking situations over the summer. At the same time, the business team will be working on creating an intern toolkit, so we're in the best position to leverage those campus interns when we begin hiring them in August. Moving past that, we will launch our full campaign in the Norman market with the assistance of our intern, with focuses on enlisting sellers and raising awareness about Park Ave. Past that, we will move into our Oklahoma City market, hiring another intern to spearhead that campaign, and at the same time, looking at the lessons learned from our OU market successes and seeing where we can best replicate those. Throughout this entire period, we will be iterating our application, first based on the experiences of beta testers, and later on the experiences of our early users. Just a few months ago, we were sitting in these seats over here as prospective interns. In May, 7 of our team members are entering a business accelerator as a fully functioning startup with seed funding and a business plan that solves a problem. Because today, parkers are frustrated with their parking options. They currently lose time and money as a result of them. In August, Park Ave will change all of that, empowering people to find, reserve, and pay for their parking before they ever leave their home, fulfilling our mission of helping people find better parking faster. Thank you all so much for your time, especially to the CCEW fellows, staff, and our team leaders. We'll now open the floor for questions.
The question is, we will now have two sets of people trying to reserve the spots, those in person and those online. And the production version of the iPhone app will actually have a feature for the seller on the day of the event where they can decrement the number of spots they have available as people come into their lot in person. That will prevent conflicts.
Yes.
One of the lessons I think from Airbnb, which is a similar thing, is that the happiness of both the seller and the buyer is increased by having ease of communication between the two. I wonder if you built that into your app.
So the question is surrounding the communication between both the buyer and the seller on both sides of this transaction. And as of yet, we have not looked into that. And one of the reasons for this is that we don't really want to allow the buyer to find the precise location until they have purchased that spot. Otherwise, they would circumvent the entire usage of our system. And so in that sense, we have not explored that option very much. However, we may be able to look into that in the future in some form of assurance.
You at the far back.
Would it be possible to see the confirmation surface with high-res camera of our app or
The question is surrounding the receipt to see if we could generate a high-resolution PDF for that. And yes, that is very much so possible. The user could then maybe even save it to the camera roll or export it some other way like that to have some proof of that transaction to happen. Yes, that's possible. Yes, very much so, yeah.
The question is about other uses of our application, for instance, finding inventory in stores. And we would like to invite you to be part of our next ideation process. But seriously, we are looking into expanding markets, expanding functionality of our app. We have a great framework for a lot of different uses that we can look into. However, the market knowledge that we have is for these event-specific parking.
The question is if we have any interest in expanding into Android, and yes, very much so. But as of right now, we are focusing primarily on iOS for the buyer side and web application for the seller side. So the question is surrounding the choice of PayPal over other payment methods inside the iOS application. We chose PayPal for both its pricing structure, which made more sense for us, and it was actually one of the least that would take the most off the top. And we also chose not to go with Apple's own in-app purchases because of the fact that that is actually a very substantial percentage of all the funds that we want to transfer. The good news is also this does not violate the terms of service of the App Store because we're using our own servers for that. And so PayPal also has a name recognition associated with it that is very reassuring to the buyer. We do it on our own servers. We encrypt everything, ensure that it's clean all the way through.
So the question is, how are we going to enlist the help of these campus interns? As I said, like this industry standard, so we've benchmarked it against a couple other companies that are doing similar things. And the way they market it is through experience in terms of marketing internship and sales rep internships for undergraduates who don't necessarily have a lot of experience in those fields yet. So it's kind of a way to bolster their resume while they're still in school. And then we are also looking at stipends to provide compensation for their time. Yeah, as I said, we were looking, the first as the footnote, like kind of respond as they came in, back out. This question was about unpaid internships. As we said, we're looking into stipends. We're just trying to determine the exact amount of those stipends. And then the other question was about people who don't want to use PayPal, want to use cash, have qualms about giving their information to companies such as Park Ave. And part of our target market, these small lot owners, is in addition to houses, we're especially focusing on businesses that already have all of the attendant interest with using credit cards and PayPal accounts. That is, like, they have to be legitimate. They have to keep a track of their payments in and out. And so that part of the market that we're targeting is kind of assuming a not as cash dependent seller. And we've also incorporated in our surveys whether or not you would accept cash or prefer district cash. And we found that in the 52% that Nathan brought up, and the people willing to sell their spots via Park Ave or Park Ave-like app, that those 52% would be willing to not use cash.
So the question is surrounding buyer and seller fraud and what kind of measures we have in place for that. As of right now, what we're going to do is put all the transactions that have been put up for an actual payment transfer into a holding account for 24 hours. That way, if there's any problem on either side for the seller unhappy with the buyer and the situation that arises, we can look into that case using some customer service framework to ensure that that is mitigated in the best possible way. So then in that case, they can maybe log into the app and say, okay, there is a problem at this particular location, and then we can work to resolve that as well. We've explored the possibility of doing check-ins via location services to ensure the buyer actually does show up at the at the parking place that they're going to, but that is something that we may look into going forward.
So the question is, from the buyers that we surveyed at the beginning of the presentation, that 78% that feel like they're paying more, is that a hard number or is that just a feeling? And at this point, yes, that is just a feeling of the buyer. One thing I would emphasize, though, is that since the buyer does feel that pain, it sets the stage for our product to be better adopted in this population.
And just for everyone, as you're leaving, we will be demoing this out in the